Hello to everyone who has the pleasure of tuning into this after the fact. I am joined by two phenomenal human beings right now, and I am grateful to have friends who are called and then they come. And so, as this call goes forward, we'll have more of us who have received the Zoom password coming on. And so this is a welcome and thrilled to have you with us. And today, who I wanted to introduce you to, and then really have a conversation consciously about what's happening, because we're living in a time like never before. And we need to become the peaceful inner warriors that are able to master our inside in order to create an outside that we can truly bask in the glory of getting to live in as if it is heaven on earth. And as I say that, I get a message from Matt Kahn about project resolution in that moment. No coincidence, right? Guys, we are tuned in, tapped in. We have access to such greatness, and it is truly in each other. No one of us are as great as all of us. We are here together because now is our chance to reunite and come to know others who have learned to play the game of life at a higher level and who can offer some insights. And Adam, you're one who I believe has a way of sharing what you have learned so that it's digestible and you're willing to hold space for other people. And so that's how we wanted to start this call. And then we're going to go with the flow. And part of what we wanted to talk about is the fact this is not a scripted call, as none of mine really are. And the reason for that is not because I didn't put effort and consideration into you who tune into what is going to unfold here, but because I know that everything that I prepared beforehand that could have prepared us for what could be ultimately was a reflection of my past self, and who we're becoming is going to unfold in this moment. And so
good. So good. No one could sum that up any better than that. You've got to go with the flow in the ever eternal now. Even when we were talking an hour ago, how much has changed? How much has changed within, and then obviously the things that are coming through and the external triggers. How much has changed? You can't set a. This is the problem, and this is the issue that we face in this day and age, is that we don't surrender to the flow of life and the eternal now, which means that we have this fixated idea, which is intangible to kind of aspire to, and everything, as we know, is changing. It's a quantum world, the timelines and everything, and this is something I really want to get across today, is that even during this day, I have gone from my own personal hell to heaven, to hell to heaven, in such an oscillating way that if we were to stick to an idea of how this would go, then we would inevitably fail. So yes, no script, surrender to the flow, and that's when the divine can flow through us, and we can express that. We don't want to get in our way here, or in the way of the divine by just to keep getting our ego involved. So yeah, you summed that up very well.
I love how you had said about how you had oscillating emotions today as well.
Oh,
because
right.
whenever we're doing something that is stepping out of our comfort zone, which is co-hosting a meeting like we are having tonight, and even for showing up to a meeting where people are hosting something we have no idea what to expect, like, congratulations for actually showing up, to all of us, because we chose to give our time, energy, effort, attention, money if you please, but ultimately there's no ask, because ultimately we're asking for connection. We're not asking.
Big hello to Betsy, by the way, who's come through. She is a goddess in her own right, a huge part of my life on this journey, and full of she's just beautiful, wonderful person. So yeah, the space that we're sharing, to have her in this as well, it's powerful stuff. We are powerful people.
Yes, and my good friend Christabel is actually in the video as well. And we met in Hollywood at a party, and we were doing aura bowls where we were literally singing all together and letting the sound reverberate in between all of us to do
Wow.
therapy and healing. And it was like the highest experience of my life, regardless of external substance. And we stayed in touch, and he's just like, come, like he's in Puerto Rico, and he's just like, come to Puerto Rico.
I can feel some great energy radiating off you, Christabel. And it's funny that you mentioned that you were in a circle talking about vibration, because just before we started, Laura, I spoke to you about us trying to maybe just share some space and share some intention in a meditative thing, and this is what came to my mind. How crazy is that? I thought that we could at least just breathe in some vibration, breathe in some sound, and to just, you know, share that moment before we dive in, because I don't know about anyone else here, and I'm sure it's true for all of us, is, you know, we're a target at the minute, and you know, this is why I was very careful about who to invite into this space before sharing it, the recording or whatever, because, you know, there's a big bullseye on our people's backs who are sharing, you know, the perspective of someone who's, you know, aware or lifting the veil. There's people out there that don't want that being lifted. They may not even know that, but yeah, it's funny you brought that up. So I just thought maybe we could just. I don't think there's any way that we can't be on the same frequency now. Breathe that in.
Thank you, Adam. You changed my frequency. Damn, I just need it. Thank you so much.
I see you. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Sometimes we can get carried away, like, you know, with a plan or whatever. We can get, you know, hurried into this conversation because we're in a society that wants instant results and instant processes. But why can't we just pause before we even start? What's the rush? There's only now.
It's pregnant with potential, just like we as humanity are. We are birthing the new human, the one who is inclusive of all hues. We have a chance to drop the walls on the boxes that we have used to keep ourselves safely separate by putting God into a box. The book that we subscribe to that describes it, him, her as a certain way, that becomes the God that we put into a box. And when we reverse the order of G-O-D, we get D-O-G, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And if in that case we back a dog into a corner, what happens to that dog?
You don't half bite back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bites back. And for years, we have been backed into corners. Is if we haven't been backed into a corner where we are the edges yet. That's what we have a chance to do now together. There are 4 of us on this call. And over on Facebook, there are 5 more. Dustin, Andy, hello guys. Awesome to have you guys. If you want to be on the Zoom call with us in view, then I'm going to send the Zoom details.
Just going to create mine. Carry on.
When I met Laura.
It's the first time I've used this, by the way. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, welcome. Amazing, guys. Yay, this is perfect.
You hear me? Aye. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Lovely to meet you guys. I was just multitasking. So I was listening. I was slowly tuning in.
Yeah, well, we all have a level at which we're receptive. And it's like we have to respect that the soul knows what's best for us. The soul knows when we have reached an invisible ceiling. And then it's only when we choose to actually acknowledge that it's there by saying, you know what, I was distracted and now I think I've got room for more. But if we try to say like, I'm going to bust through this bitch, then that's like putting a dog into a corner, right?
100%.
It's like multitask, do what you need to do to keep yourself focused, because some people are kinesthetic learners, visual learners, auditory learners. Like we need to respect our learning style. And if multitasking and keeping yourself busy while you're actually on a call, learning about new concepts that make you uncomfortable, you're actually bringing comfort into an uncertain circumstance, which actually supports you. So you're supporting yourself, which should be celebrated rather than judged.
Thank you. Beautifully put as well.
I love that you two are meeting right now. This is really cool. This is really cool for me. 2 very important women in my life meeting right now. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
I literally just saw it as well. I thought it was 5 p.m. I thought I'd missed it, but so yeah.
Yay. No, and that is the same thing with Cristobal. And I love that a man has come for me and a woman has come for you, Adam, because it's the balance of the masculine and feminine on this call right now. And last week I had another divine feminine woman who stands in her glory and power in so many ways, Laura Marcos. And she and I were joined by a gentleman who literally grounded our video as the trifecta, you know, and it's just like now we have 4 in this video. And then on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 9 o'clock UK time, or I don't know where in the world you are, my traveling friend, but wherever you are, just 4 o'clock on Friday, come and see how many more come, so we can have these conversations where we don't have to have it even muted, so long as everyone's respectful. But what's the point in being disrespectful? The point is in having conversation. And then to also say, like, if you need to multitask and you don't agree with something that's said, we're not attached to anyone accepting, neglecting, or rejecting anything.
Oh, that is the answer.
Very true.
The answer. We've gone too far in at this time with tribalism and finding that, you know, conflicting views is a disagreement, or they're the enemy. You know, the conflict. There is only. How can we learn? How can we express ourselves? How can we find the ultimate truth if we don't express that to each other and feel comfortable to learn and to get our ego checked, or to disagree with you, but respect you in why you think what you think? Because for too long we have thought that because you think something that disagrees with me, that is a reflection on how you view me, or how you know. We're too polarized. It's such a layered way of living right now that this, like I say, in a quantum world, there is room for everyone to be right, And once we have empathy for that and compassion and understanding, that's how we move forward as a group, as a collective. If we are only just aspects of the same thing, then everyone is right, because everyone is God. Everyone is the one thing. Everyone is truth. You're just different sides of the truth. So there is no right or wrong. There is just a different perspective. If we see it like that and start coming together and start accepting that and saying, I disagree with you, but that's fine, then we can move forward. Because too far, like even right now on Facebook or whatever, you're pushing a view and I don't agree with you. Suddenly we fall into this beef, into this. Well, it's right and it's wrong. But at the minute, I'm looking into. It's taken me this way. I'm looking into near-death experiences where people have died in hospital, or whatever, and come back, and they've gone somewhere, and they all say the same things. They all say that there is no good, there is no bad, there is no right, there is no wrong. There just is. And I come back after this, coming out of my body and seeing what's going on and being in this space of pure forgiveness and non-judgment. That is ultimately the truth, is where there is just experience and perspective. So yes, the more we can get people with different views together and respectfully sharing that space, the better we can move forward as a group.
And also ensure that we are not allowing ourselves to remain willfully ignorant, understanding that ignorance is not knowing, and that it's not okay. Even though it is, it's not, but it is. It's just like, there's this part in me that's just like, please just don't listen to one station and then decide that you're going to make an opinion from that. Please. Yeah. Like I literally had a it wasn't an argument, but you could say that it was definitely verging onto that, where it will likely be the last civil conversation that I have with that particular person. Not because we had any outbursts, but it's just like he thinks that what I believe is so outlandish that he wants nothing to do with me. The fact that I've been institutionalized in a mental hospital because I think differently and I'm a free thinker that has flown the coop of my tribe's ideations that then make me a threat to where I came from and not yet find belonging where I am moving, such as others who may feel lost, which is why I created the Facebook community, a space where misfits fit.
Yeah.
It's like I created that because it's just like, dude, I'm not like where I come from. I love my people, but they don't think like myself and you who are on this call. And look at how it changes. Like, where did that come from?
Where's that blue? What is going on?
I don't know. That's why I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, where did that even come from?
That's also, I have no idea.
That's God. That's God.
Nothing
is a coincidence. Wow. Nothing is a coincidence. Nothing.
So true, Christopher. That is not something that's giving me anything other than good vibes, though.
Yeah, 100%.
As soon as you started speaking about moving into your truth, that appeared.
Look at the rays coming off of it. Can you see the rays?
Yeah, that is getting bigger and brighter.
What's happening?
Wow. Look at the colour. Look at the colour.
This is freaking with
what?
This is freaking with the Matrix.
This looks like an filtering on Instagram, like a new filter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bathe in it, bask in it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Blue ray. Yeah.
Thank you.
Isn't the blue ray associated with Archangel Michael, who is also associated with the number 555? So this I would see as a tangible expression of the fact that we are supported. And while Adam was actually doing the sound healing, the sound bowls I was bringing in, where I was intending for this call to have the angels and guides around us to support us. And so as part of this, and see how kind of even strengthens in color, it's just they're here.
You're drowned right now.
They're here with us. This is
wow.
the tangible expression of the fact that we are so supported and that this blue is standing in our truth. The blue is literally the power, the force that says if we don't speak up, then we'll have nothing left to not speak out on. Like, we could use our voice now.
I literally needed to hear that. Everything you just said,
Mm-hmm.
and I spoke to you, Adam. You know, I've got into a lot of arguments recently, lost a lot of so-called friends as well. I mean 10, 11, 12, 13 people blocked or what have you. And this is like perfect timing. This is perfect timing. Sorry, I'm a dog.
Like Christabel said, there's no accidents. Nothing is a coincidence.
Yes.
You know, you were meant to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Incredible.
This is the force field that is being upheld around those who are willing to stand in their truth. It doesn't mean that we're not invincible either. And right before I was listening to this, ironically, I was watching an interview. His last name is Smart, and his first name is...
Diving deep once again, infinite waters.
Yes.
Ralph Smart.
Ralph Smart was interviewing Teal Swan. And they were talking about death, and it being about the fact that so many people are not actually afraid of death. They're afraid of death. They're not afraid of dying. Like, that wasn't what she had said specifically, but it was just like, they're not afraid of losing their life. They're afraid of dying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so many people are not living fully. So many people are letting what's happening, like, we're staying in our houses. We're coming out of our houses to get groceries and then go back and report that we're a good citizen. I'm sorry. Respect. But also, at the same time, we're not, like, people are dying of mental health issues because ants die on their own. Like,
yes.
Ants die on their own. And if we are not willing to actually step up, then what is going, like, I can't even believe this blue light. It's
mad. And it's got rainbows that
it's
are
blue. It's a rainbow.
There's rainbows and everything. It's mad.
You see the specks, like half of it is almost like rays, and then it's almost specks, like a kind of, what do they call, you know, them goggles when you look through the hexagon, almost like a, I don't know, yeah. Insane. Very cool.
So, like a red, white, and blue, like the Friends flag. Look at that.
The Friends
and rainbows that are dancing. The rainbow children are here, you know?
This is awesome. This is the first time I see something like this.
Yeah, what is on the screen? What is on the screen right now? Anyone else's blue rainbow on screen? Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Can they see it on Facebook too?
Yes, it's on Facebook too.
So it's not even the angle of the camera right now.
No. Well, it might be, like, I'm sure if I moved my camera.
Wow.
But look at all the light. See, it's
light codes. They're light codes.
They're light codes.
My friend literally gave me this a couple of days ago. I mean, I don't know, call it coincidence, but
there ain't no coincidence.
Tribal, rainbow. I don't know if you can actually see it properly.
Yeah. Hold it up.
Yeah. Anyway, madness. Wow. This is madness.
I missed it.
A beautiful madness. Oh.
The Great Seal.
Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
You know? Do you know about it? Do you know anything about it?
No.
I don't know much. She was kind of talking about a friend that travelled around America in a Winnebago, isn't it? Yeah.
Winnebago.
Okay.
That's Spirit is here. So Andy and Robert are on this call over on Facebook too, guys. So they'll join in next time, and we've got a few others who are tuning in too. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about going deeper into surrender.
Yeah. And we started talking about oscillating emotions and stuff, and then you started talking about, we've got to stand up and speak our truth. And I've had so many people come up to me recently and just approach me about how I'm speaking my truth. And I find that I go back to The Matrix, the film, and how the agents react and act through so many different people, and you know, for as long as they are not ready to be awoken, they are the enemy. And no, there's no enemy, but that's how he perceives it. I literally just shared it on Facebook. To me, there's no enemy, but they are not the ally. So there are so many people that will approach you in an allied, manner, but yeah, they will try and stop that at any point, because they're not ready. And everyone who's done, they're not ready, but
No.
we are, and we are chosen. And it's never been, anyone who has ever stood up for anything worthwhile has never had an easy time doing it, and it's never been something that's ready for people are ready for, and it's never been something that, you know, you haven't had to sacrifice a hell of a lot for. But then we're talking about oscillating emotions, and I was wondering if I wrote a poem today, and I was wondering if I could recite that as a reflection on our time, and I'd like to explain that. And I wrote this, you know, it seems to be a pattern. Every day I wake up in this mindset, and towards the end of my day I wake up, I go into a place of surrender, and into a place of everything is perfect, everything is divine, everything is a reflection of what's happening within us. And the answer goes from fighting the external to going within, because it's just a projection of within. We have to start with ourselves. But this hopefully can maybe teach us about ourselves when I talk about what is in the external. So this is what I woke up and it took me 2 minutes to write it. I don't write my poetry, I channel it, I just vomit it out. And this is something that came to me. And as soon as I wrote this, I had 2 people approach me about how I should wake people up and how I should basically shut up. So here it is. Our rights have been taken without our consent. Where is the outrage? Where is the dissent? It was there for pronouns and even a wage gap, but for liberty and freedom it has taken a nap. Influencers are the idols that we often follow. The agendas from their senders we dutifully swallow. So shallow is the waters of genuine truth, but crystal clear can be the stream in reflected proof. The greater good often unites the people, corrupted for control from parliament to steeple. Weep all those that can decipher the lies from demons who utilize our empathy till freedom dies. They take advantage of your heart for their ends. They project conflicting views through their lens. Parrots copy captains so not to be a pest. Now I see so many who fly far over the cuckoo's nest. The thought war has begun. The trumpets have now sung. The battlefield will not be kind. The battlefield of your very mind. As soon as I put that out, attack. In a way, in such a way of, bro, you speak so well, you should probably channel that into something more, you know, positive, bro.
God, yeah.
You
How
know
is
what I
that
mean?
not positive? How is that not positive?
Oh no, it's paranoid, it's
empowering.
conspiratorial, paranoid, negative. It's it's shaking the nest, you know. It's too and people say it's coming from a superiority place where I feel like I'm talking down to people.
Yes.
And that is just a reflection of other people's inferiority rather than my superiority, you know?
I don't understand how I do. I understand power and control dynamics. So, like when somebody feels like they're losing something, then they need to push harder. It's like I was at a workshop one time, and the instructor basically leaned over and basically started putting his body weight, and basically said, "Okay, hold me up," and then leaned over and pushed his hand and all of his body weight into this hand. And then basically the person just automatically resisted and tried to hold the guy up. And it's just like, did I tell you to resist? Yeah, in this story, he did, because he said, hold this up. But in the actual story, he didn't say anything. He just said, like, he basically was like, okay, put your arm up. And then he took his hand and then weighed it down. And so then it was like, did I tell you to resist? And it's like, no, but we automatically do. It's like, if you say, like, put your hand like this and somebody puts their body weight against it, like, you're going to start resisting. And it's just like, that's what's happening right now. It's just like body weight is being put against us and we're not being told to resist. And so we're not. well, actually, we're being told not to resist, because we're being told that it's helpful to us, and so we don't need to resist. So we're just being driven down. I feel the purity of this space. I'm gonna head to work. Much love to all, Andy says over on Facebook.
Bye, Andy. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. I messed up that story, but the point is, I think that's even significant from the perspective. It's just like, make a mistake and then move on. But it's just like, I feel too many of us are like, well, I need to get it perfect. And I'm like, don't get me wrong. I had a book that I've been writing for like 3 years now that rewrote me and sent me over the edge many times. Like right after meeting Cristobal, actually, was my first time going into a state of depression. Thanks, Andy, you too. It was my first time last May going into a state of depression where I literally wanted to die. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live the way that I was, because I was living a quarantine-like lifestyle, essentially. I was helping my grandparents, and I was writing my book and creating my programs and trying to put everything, but basically it's all related to the same thing, which is this peaceful inner warrior system that I had to create. And basically I got the download of peaceful inner warrior along the way, but it was going to be spiritual inner warrior at first. But the thing was, is I didn't feel like I actually was a warrior. I didn't feel like I had the authority to write something about being a warrior when I wasn't one. And then I went into a space of just doubting myself and looking at my past and every way that I had failed, and not come back with the results that I should have now, now 32-year-old woman, at that point being 30 years old. I just went out for 3 weeks to, out west, and, had these crazy experiences, most expanded states of awareness, meeting people like Cristobal and having these wild, like, horrible experiences, and just like photo shoots and like Long Beach Island, like high level mansion experiences, like just dialed into abundance. And then I came back to the basement of my tribe's BS, which is what the basement of my grandparents kind of has come to be synonymous with. It's my home. It's where I grew up, teaching my dolls in front of the chalkboard, where my headboard now is for my bed. It's just like I am back at the same place where I started, knowing it for the first time, which is why the sacred sojourn of the soul is behind me, because it's like, this is the book that took so long for me to be able to write, because I had to become it along the way, and I had to give up my need to do it so many times that it got to a place of not even caring, except for caring more than anything. And that was when I went through dark times of depression. And literally after meeting Cristobal, like, we had met, and then it was like, basically we set up a call, and it was just like, you'd met me at my highest point, and then all of a sudden you're talking to a totally different person. It was just totally different. And it was just like, I literally wasn't the same person, because I had doubted myself and basically come under attack for basically giving birth to the creative baby of my own self-image. And I was shifting that, and not yet fully there yet, as you've done today by giving birth to another poem. And basically I was coming back not with a book yet ready, but with the experience that will be able to be put into book 1, 2, 3, 4 plus, right? And it's like those experiences, that integration period, like in the mental health system, if a shaman goes in there from the tribal places that, in Latin America and in the jungle, and places where they haven't been corrupted by the greed for money and profits over people. And when they go in, they look at the people who are suffering in those walls, and they acknowledge the fact that each of those are simply human beings who haven't yet fully integrated the energies that have come into them. It's just like there's a shadow in and around of like an extra archetype, like an extra an extra body image outline that's like outside of you. Each time you become something new, it's just like there's integration time that needs to come in, and then once that new mask is there, then you can be present again. But
And
until then,
equally, there's attachments to the old self that you kind of don't allow that to surrender, that to allow you to then surrender to whatever experiences you're being exposed to. But equally, the shadow gets suppressed. These that we put up, we are the blocks, is what we're saying. We block it. We don't, you know, like I said, we don't. You've got to sit in that, because if you run away from these aspects of yourself, or if you don't integrate them properly, they become a shadow, and a shadow will follow you wherever you run until you shine a light on it, until you turn around and you give it that space and that love, and then it dissipates, because it is just another aspect of you. And attachments to you know, for example, you're going from a high abundance place to your the basement is that is just a space, but it's the attachments to that space that we kind of hold. We are our worst enemy here. We hold on to ideas. There is nothing but unconditional love. Everything else is we make it up, we create. And like you say, you know, just those masks that you come on, we're the ones that are fighting to take it off, put it on. Surrender is the key, really, isn't it?
Fully. And it's like, even I remember when I went to Las Vegas one time, not the time that not the trip where I had met Cristobal, but a different one. I went out there for an MLM I just joined, and basically wound up getting invited to the big party that all the people that had made, like, you know, 5-6 figures a month, that they were able to go to that party, and I got to go because of who I was with, which was my upline, who were doing a lot of work but not getting a lot of reward. So they got compensated by being able to come to the mansion party and be at the mansion party. And basically somebody started flying drones over top of the neighborhood where this mansion had been rented. So the neighbors complained, security came, everybody was to get kicked out except for the people that had paid for it, and then like the very, very top guys, right? And then I got to stay as well. And I'm like 2 weeks into this company, and everybody else who has earned their way in literally is being asked to leave. And I can't even tell you how inferior and how just awkward I felt, because I was able to stay in that space, because I was committed to my loser self-image from growing up, being bullied and being told, you know, not being good enough, not being pretty, not being smart, even though it was, you know, you're told those things generally because somebody wants to keep you from remembering that you actually are, right? And so for years, I was so insecure, and still have moments. And even, you know, it's just that little girl inside of me. And I think what's so important, and it's becoming so obvious to me recently, in that it's really time for us to do the inner child reintegration therapy work that is so key. And that I was getting to go into sharing my approach, and then I kind of pull back and then get distracted and go down different rabbit holes. But essentially, I brought up that story specifically around the story of letting go, because everybody else had been kicked out. But the people that I got to stay, there were some girls from Mexico that had rented some Lamborghinis. And so they drive these Lamborghinis up to this mansion with their doors that, you know, go up. And it's like they pull out there to do the posing. And I hate the posing of, you know, pretend like you own these and pretend you're at this mansion and that's your lifestyle. Like those lifestyle pictures that are so phony, I am not into it at all, which is why I didn't stick around with that company. But the crazy thing was that I had the opportunity to go out there and get some of those pictures taken and experience, more so than just the pictures, to actually have the experience of sitting in a Lamborghini and being able to be in that environment of abundance and luxury. And instead, I actually stayed in the hot tub while everybody else went out front to get the pictures while they were there. And it was going to be like 25 minutes. And I was kind of talking to a guy at the time who was going out there. And he's like, I'll be right back. And I didn't feel worthy of having been there. So I didn't want to join because I didn't feel like I should be there in the first place. So I was like, oh, I'll just stay in the hot tub. But it ended up that it took a lot longer. And the crazy thing too about the story is that earlier the day before, the pool temperature and the hot tub temperature had been switched. So I was actually sitting in a temperatured hot tub the entire time. These people were out back enjoying Lamborghinis and the experience of apparent luxury. And it was all because the little girl inside of me didn't want to let go of her reign of the story not enough. And so I literally froze in a hot tub, which is an oxymoron in itself. That's pretty perfect. You couldn't make that shit up, right? And it's just like, I had that experience because I wasn't willing to let go of who I was before I showed up, ready to accept the now moment as it needs to come, rather than how I think it should.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that as well, because that is such there's so much to take from that. And I know Betsy is on a huge mission of abundance, and I think that's your dream car, isn't it? A Lamborghini.
I lit up a little bit there as well. I was like, Lamborghini, blimey. But more so, again, not necessarily showing off, but it's making the most of everything life has to give us. Why not? I used to have such a negative mentality towards money. I was brought up with next to nothing. So I'm a Romany gypsy myself. And, you know, we lived in a trailer. But back then, I didn't realise we didn't have anything anyway. So it was something that I was used to. But anyway, I guess, where am I going? Slightly gone off track here. So I was brought up thinking that, you know, money ruins people. And that it's not worth having, that actually the smaller things in life, you know, are the best things. And to a degree, again, of course they can be, but it's also quite a negative and self-sabotaging way of being, you know. And so I started to realise that actually, again, money can bring a lot of happiness as well. Why not? Why can't we all kind of share that luxurious lifestyle? Why not? And why not enjoy the finest things in life? That's
just a resource, isn't it, really? It's just it's energy, and that's something we got to remember. It's not finite.
Yes.
The way we work in this world is that it literally is digitalized, and someone can put zeros in a computer and boom, you're a millionaire. Really, let's be honest, anyone could be. But growth and, you know, self exploration, self awareness, if it was easy, then you know, no, what would be the point? You know, we've got to forget, we've got to remember, we've got to get through those moments and freeze in a hot tub to torture ourselves to go through that experience. And that's clearly stuck with you because we're still talking about it today. And that is such a poignant moment in your life, because now you've shared that with me. That's something that resonates with me so much, that unworthiness, that inner child. And like we spoke before in our last one, is that we're born into this world as children. Our souls are children, and that's why Jesus says, you know, the kingdom of heaven will only be allowed to the soul, to the heart, to go those with the hearts of a child, because we're born in the purest form, you know, heaven. And then we get attached these ideas and these programmings, and, you know, you can't express yourself properly here, and money, and you can't afford that here, and you have to do this even though you don't want, you know. And we grow that, and you're not good enough, and this is not right, and you get a proper job. All of these things that shape us into something we've not. We're still the children. We're still that soul is still the child till the day we die. We are still that inner child. But how can we we're still that inner child, but how can we deal with this life that's full of made up illusion? It's an illusion, a very real illusion that we get distracted by a lot. But you know, we're just children who pretend to be adults, who pretend to know what they're doing. And if
Yeah.
we revert back to that child and revert back to loving that child and giving that child everything that it deserves, that we know now as adults or children making things up, that all children deserve, if we go back to that, relationship and heal that, then everything else will have a knock-on effect. And I think that is the inner work. That's the task that we're given now. Again, we're surrendering and we're looking outside in this illusion of our rights being taken away, and we've got loads and so much going on: 5G, coronavirus, social distancing, Bill Gates.
Almost perfect timing. It was building up. You know, it for me anyway, it was definitely like, that was like the icing on the top. Like, we needed this. People need to sit with themselves, to go deep within. You know, people are distracting themselves every single day and don't actually want to face their trauma, their grudges, or what have you. They don't want to look within. They keep distracting.
We can't run anymore.
No, people cannot run. People are still trying to run, of course, and I think people are going to fight it.
Yeah.
Because they've been programmed to, not to necessarily. I don't know. I mean, I'm still questioning. I have no one answer for anything at the moment. I kind of, but I don't know. Continue. I was just agreeing.
Also, like this, what was the order? It wasn't working. What was normal wasn't normal. Well, it's not just now our mental health has been affected. It's never been good. It's been in a dog-eat-dog, isolated world. How much have we been socially distancing before we were made to? So much wasn't working. And if this order isn't working and we have to break that down and it has to change, that means that in its essence, there has to be disorder. We have to we can't just smoothly transition into the new normal. The new normal, old normal is grasping on. It's not surrendering to this purge and this change. It is gripping to anything it can, and it's bringing us down with it. And this is why we've got fear being projected. We've got, as above, so below, and so much. We are creatures of habit, and we have, order, natural order, universal order, from nature. And we've gone so far. The pendulum swung so far against that, to this synthetic bullshit world that makes no sense, that we are not designed to live in. That is gone too far this way. It has to swing back. And what's it going to do? It's going to take us with it. We got to surrender to that, because and we live in a world where there is only now, but also now is just a grain of sand in the beach. It's eternal. So what's happening now is a huge uprooting and a purging, but it seems like it's going to last forever, and it is like, the end of the world. But the apocalypse is just the lifting of the veil. This is going to be a process that's going to take time to awaken, to see, to acknowledge, to find a new rhythm, to find a new habit, to find a new order. And it's easy to get carried away in what's going to happen, because what has happened, we've got to surrender, stay in the now. And like you say, there's so much going on outside of us. Well, if we can't control that, let's go within. That's one thing we can control, is what's happening now, and who and what we are. And we've got to go within. That's it. Let's work on what we can control. I can't stop Bill Gates doing his thing, but I can stop the aspect of Bill Gates, which is the aspect of me that's living inside of here that I have not acknowledged. And maybe if I sort that out and look into that and go within and work on that, because, we need to be careful what you wish for. Have we not wished for the end of the Matrix? Have we not wished for the end of this world? Have we not wished for this? Be careful what you wish for, people, because, we've actually asked for this in a weird way. So we've got to look into, and we forget as well. We forget that we're all is one, because we get distracted by the big illusion that's nice and bright and noisy and destructive and, enticing to fear, danger. But, you know, when everything's good and everything's right, yes, namaste, we all are one, we're all reflections of one, we should bring down and be a part of love and not sell our time for money, and we should, you know, let Mother Nature heal. It happens and we all start crying. Let's realize, let's take our time here, realize what's happening, and just be accepting, because everything is perfectly divine.
Yes.
And once we go past the veil, once we go past this illusion, which is these near-death experience videos, they all say from all across the world, without speaking to each other, there is no judgment, there is nothing but experience and nothing but perfect divine order. So all we can do is surrender to it. The only thing we do is hurt ourselves and get caught up in the illusion. Stop blocking yourself, surrender to it, go within. Bill Gates and 5G and all of this is just a distraction from you loving and healing yourself.
Well,
But also never say never. You said that you don't think you have the power to stop Bill Gates. You do. And you have to recognize that power.
Yeah.
Seriously, I do it all the time. We put ourselves down and we don't even realize we're doing it. We do. We're here together now, like perfect timing. You're from America, you're from up north, I'm from down south. It's happening. And quantum leaping as well. Like, I believe, I told you, you know, randomly, I need money, and, you know, I started practicing manifestation before Christmas. £50 just miraculously appears in my bank. You know, there was nothing kind of recorded. It was just there, and it wasn't there before. You know, miracles happen. I believe it. I've seen it multiple times now. So take back your power. Yeah. Believe in yourself and believe that big changes are coming. I can feel it. I said 5 years ago, and my family are well known for making predictions as well. Sorry to cut across, by the way, but and my grandfather said that we'd have a third world war, but it wouldn't be like the wars that he'd seen, so World War I and II in Europe. Something far greater, a global world war. Anyway, and I predicted 5 years ago that we were going to have a big revolution. Now, I was just kind of like spraying out, like, I've got a feeling, you know, and I said to a few people. Anyway, so it's been 3.5 years, and it's starting to roll now. I can see it. People are not happy. People are not content. People are starting to speak up. The links precisely, and it's happening fast. And I think, it's going to come in unexpectedly, or maybe expectedly, who knows, eh? But yeah, take the power back. Take the power back.
Literally, just you've really threaded something in. Now, kind of just 4 sentences to say just on that, on the big world war. It's the thought war, and this is what I gotta say. 4 sentences. What was the thought war fought for? The thought war was fought for torture, but the nurture of what was important was at the core, at the thought fought author. It's a thought war, and it's also a revolution of the mind. And it's nothing that it's information, and it's an intellectual war. And once we see that, because we're sleeping and waiting for something outside of us, or, you know, that's when you can get caught. So the revolution is in here. Sorry, carry on.
Matt Khan's email, I thought when you were saying that, it's just like, wasn't it Project Revolution that came through? It's resolution, but nonetheless, what is the difference between a V and an S? Like, if it's about directed energy, it's like the S and then the V of victory. It's like grounding the flow. So if we can actually, that's how a revolution takes place organically. We ground the flow by being the ones in the know, by connecting with each other. So we're already doing that. And then also, exactly to your point, Andy is watching over on Facebook too. Or Robert actually said, I don't believe in any coincidence. I went through the hell to be where I'm now. I will not give anybody a power to tell me, you are mad. Come back on the ground. I'm not coming back. I'm exactly where I should be now. Don't let anyone take your power. So exactly what you were saying about you know, giving away your power. And, you know, that's been the way that we've been trained. It's just like when I came back from that trip where Cristobal and I had met, that I've referenced, when I went into the darkest time, part of it was because while I was there, I'd went out with a girl that ultimately I had some money and she had skills and confidence, and said she could be a soul doula to help me naturally rebirth myself. And it was just like, I'm ready to go deep. I'm ready to pierce through those veils. Let's go, baby. And so it was just like, okay, you pay me back, I'll foot the bill, and then we'll do this. And it's just like, we went out there, and then the problem was for 3 weeks we were codependent on each other, you know, me paying for everything. And, you know, there's that power dynamic that's just not even. Because regardless,
equal exchange there, you know?
No, not equal exchange at all. And the other thing was, is like, I brought a lot of value outside of just money that I was footing the bill, right? So it was just like, there were all of those things that made it so that when I got back and went into that dark spot, it was because I'd given power to people that didn't even ask for it.
Precisely.
And then I came home to where I gave power away to my family, not because they asked for it, but because I didn't want to have to make the decision, even though I was wanting to make the decision more than anything. But I've just been like, I was in this state of, I have no idea where I'm supposed to go from now. I just feel like right here is where I need to be. But it's just like, I go when I'm called, but I got impatient with hearing the call. So I was putting myself into adventures with people that would, you know, could help me. And ultimately they did, but it was through betrayal. It was through all of the ways that we get hurt in order to be shaped into one that we say, hey, no, because actually we all have 4 survival archetypes: victim, saboteur, prostitute, and child. And basically each of those have a light and shadow aspect to them. And, the prostitute is the part of us that will sell ourselves for money, time, energy, whatever. But it's also the inner prostitute that actually can step into the sacred prostitute archetype, who knows what we will not sell ourselves for. Like, we know the line, and it's just like, okay, I'll go up to there. And there's going to be a lot of military and police personnel and people who are going to be forced to impose laws, fines, incarceration on innocents, people like us that are free thinkers, that are radical, that, you know, are sharing information. And like, we have to know how to go within and build a strong, that inner rabbit hole that Maxwell Maltz talks about in psychocybernetics. We have to know how to build an inner rabbit hole that we can go to anytime, that can be like a center of calm, like the home that comes with us. We have to know how to access that, because, and like training in Wim Hof's breathing techniques and the cold therapies, like, this sounds really horrible, guys, but I'm kind of, I know this is going to make me sound like a real conspiracy theorist, and I always say I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm just a realist that's living in a really fucked up world right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, ultimately, I feel like we need to know what it's like to go through and deal with the discomfort of having our, like, bathing in cold water. We actually need to strengthen ourselves, because like, it may come to a time where we actually have to do these things. And like,
comfort kills in every ever extinction, any ever you know, walk of life, or comfort is the killer. And we are too.
You stop growing. You don't evolve. It's evolution. We're behind, I believe. In fact, well, I think we've been going backwards, you know. We've been, it's time to recognize just what we're capable, and, you know, open the other senses. We're only aware of what, 5 or 6 senses, isn't it? Or, well, some people are aware of other senses.
The Mayans and the Egyptians, and, you know, we've only ever gone backwards. You know, how the hell we could never make the pyramids now. You know? But pain is a great teacher. Pain is a great, fast tracking in growth.
Accelerator.
You know, and that's what Wim Hof teaches us. But also, like what you said about betrayal. You know, how I've never been able to stand up for myself more than when I've had enough of being walked over.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take, you know, respect for me to go, I'll never be treated like that again. It takes the disrespect, the constant deprivation of my respect to take. I'm not taking this anymore. I am standing in my truth and my worth. I know my worth. You only know your worth by having so many outside reflections of, you know, people, you know, reflecting your unworthiness, and you go, that's it, I'm done. So pain, like Wim Hof, I've not had a warm shower, but I start off a little bit warm, but I've not had a cold shower for nearly a year. And I've done in regards to self-mastery, I've you know, quit meat, I quit drinking alcohol, I quit smoking weed, I quit smoking cigarettes, I've even started semen retention. I've been on that journey for a long time. And these things that are, you know, let's look at the world, and comfort is a killer, but it's programmed. We're trained to be in comfort, and this is why everyone's now losing their minds. You know, porn is free. Such a commodity, such a thing in this world that can be used, and so overly used in this world. Why the hell is that free in such a product consumerist world? Because it's a weapon, and it can rewire people's brains, especially boys, and it can give away your energy, and it can give away your power, and your sexual energy is the most divine energy, and that is sacred, and people are spaffing it quite literally on their belly buttons, and it's a reflection on their own worth. And comfort is a killer, you know. In this world, for us to retain, for us to not drink in a party society, for us to stop smoking when it's, you know, such a you know, trust me, there's many times I need a cigarette in this world. I get driven to that point. For us to just go, right, let's really master ourselves. Like,
yes.
a minute I'm eating, I can't stop eating. I need to fast. I need to start fasting. And you're right, there may be a time in this world where we're going to have to go without food because it may not be available to us, or we're going to have to really push ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, to overcome a lot of things that we've not been able to overcome in this instantaneous world, in this dopamine, you know, abundant, you know, just quick releases of dopamine. We may have to suffer for a while. We may have to, and even if we don't, we should, because growth.
I think we're being, sorry, go on.
Sorry,
we're being drawn towards it. We're being drawn. We're on this path for a reason, and we're being pushed and tested, and we should start accelerating ourselves now. Like, take it upon ourselves to really fucking drive.
You know, Noah and the Ark, I don't see it as Noah. I see it as Noah. We are the knowers. We know something's coming. We can see things appearing. We're awake and others are asleep, and we're trying to get people lovingly wake the fuck up. And they're seeing us as everyone else. Noah, guys, there's a flood. No, there's not. Shh, look at this idiot. I'm building it. I'm building this for everyone. Let's get this. Look at this guy. We're Noah now because we know, but also we're being laughed at, we're being mocked at, we're being ostracized. But what happens at the end with Noah and the Ark, or the Ark of the Covenant? What is the Ark? You know, Noah in the end is the only one who survives that with his family and the animals, the innocents, the 2x2, and the people that laughed, and the people that wouldn't listen, and the people would judge, and the people would stay in their comfort. They don't want to build an ark in something that's not here. What's here right now? It's fine. It's all gravy. You know, the mainstream media saying it's cool. It's just, you know, we've got to do what we've got to do. I can sit in front of my Netflix. I can chill out. I can eat. I can do what I want. The flood's coming, is it not? Yeah. And we're the knowers. So let's know.
I have to bring something up. I don't know if you've also heard of this consciousness movement. No, they're going angelic consciousness movement. You know, what are they called, Adam?
Was it the videos I showed you about?
What's then? I can't remember their specific.
Consciousness.
About Lemurian programming and is it?
Consciousness connective, I think.
Connecting, yes. And they're kind of talking about how a lot of these spiritual movements are programs and actually are quite dangerous and riddled with darkness. Now, I don't know. I think there's a reason why I saw that as well. And I'm kind of being, I don't know, I feel like the programming is extremely deep rooted, that even if we think something is good, and I don't know, it's almost like a trap. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how I.
Yeah. That's why. Who says it? Someone says, take the meat and leave the bones in everything, because
True.
we spoke that. I don't know if you were in. Do you remember we were talking about what's good and what's bad? There's no such thing as good and bad after you die and stuff like that. I don't know if you came in at that point, but that is the ultimate truth: is that there is only love. So if we get trapped down these rabbit holes of this is the truth and QAnon's the way, and and whatever, you know, they are traps. You know, there are psyops, or they are controlled opposition. Or I think that, you know, if let's look at it as like a simulation, a quantum game, whatever it is, there's going to be different levels, but the same coding and same programming. And what is a program? It's just it's a design through really in a quantum world. It's thought. So yeah, I think to this is what we talked about. You know, how the internet gets people to take one side or polarize.
Yes.
Got to get rid of that. We've got to meet in the middle. It's a Hellions dialect, is it? Hellions dialect. Do you know what that? Anyone heard of that?
No. But
so basically, you have one side that I believe this side. Well, let me go on to the other side, and together, let's work together to find the ultimate truth.
Yeah. So right before I went into the mental institution, I got right up on the polar opposites in the fight between the fearful and the faithful, and the fearfully faithful and the faithfully fearful. And there were the gray ones, the white ones, and the dark ones. And I started seeing the patterns in the vehicles, and how it would be like white and black vehicles. And then there was one, the whole experience of being in Arizona and then flying, and it was all pretty crazy. But it was the polarization and that fight between the white, the dark, and then the in between, which is the gray. And then the fact that the gray ones are the ones who try to stay neutral like us. And we are the most easily manipulated, because we want to maintain balance. We want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. We want to be respectful. So the gray ones are actually the ones that are most easily manipulated by the dark forces or by the light. And so spiritual traditions, certainly you can get the downloads, but then it's just like, which consciousness are you actually channeling in that download? Because it's just like, I channel like pretty high frequency consciousness at times, I've been told. But it's just like, I've been told I channel really heavy hitters, and I don't know specifically who or what or any of that stuff. I just kind of go without being in my mind. I flow with it. That's why I don't set up the structure. It's just like, we're just going to go where it goes. And it's going to be as beautiful as it needs to be for whoever shows up, exactly when they show up. Because when they show up is exactly the message that they need to get. And they either need to be on the whole thing and can watch the replay, or just needed to be there for that particular time. But it's like the gray ones are the best targets for the dark side to overtake, because they will fight, and they will fight to stay neutral and then defend oftentimes the underdog, who then becomes the one that seems to be attacked. So in this fight for good, fight for life, fight for humanity, fight for connection, fight for our freedom, our liberties, in this fight, we have to figure out how to be like Mother Teresa, who said, I will never attend an anti-war rally, but host a rally for peace, and I'll be there. Like, we can bring the bells.
Grounding again, isn't it? About grounding. And that's what's the nature of an empath, to truly be able to experience within the experience of someone else. And whether it's the dark or the light, we can really put ourselves there. Everyone in here, us three, have been through some shit. Through some very, very dark stuff. We've met our demons, we've become our demons, we've been our own angels, we've been our own gods, we've been our own goddesses. We know the full spectrum of consciousness, and we can get it. We just get it. We know why there's some sick people out there. We see them as unhealed people. We just see them as unhealed versions of ourselves, and we can imagine ourselves being there because we soak up that energy. And then the light, we want to aspire to be that, because we've been that for ourselves when we were that side of that spectrum. So it's easy to put ourselves in the grey, but it's. I had a conversation with my neighbour who's on a very rudimental version of my spiritual awakening. She's kind of at her it's just started for her, and she's kind of just trying to find her way around that. And she says, I'm just gullible. I take people in. I let people take advantage of me. And my ex-boyfriend really hurt me. And I say, it's not gullibility. You're not being gullible. You are just being open and aware. And it's like, Laurie, she had the same experience as I had, that you had. I don't know, Betsy, if you've had this, but a spiritual awakening, which was very much disguised as a mental breakdown.
Yes.
She was into a hospital as well, and spent some time in there. And we both came to a place of understanding in that conversation that it was not going crazy. It was not a fragmented mind. It was not a broken person. It was we have been asleep for a long time, seeing things in such a rudimental way, and we just became aware so very quickly, too very quickly for our programming, but just the right amount for our soul to find ourselves. And you can go crazy, but really, if you are safe and sound and cracking on, like we know these people are, the people that aren't ready to awake in this insane asylum that is the world. When we go into an insane asylum, it's not because we are the patients, it's because we are aware of where we are is insane. So it's an awareness thing, I believe, and that's what empaths, which I believe we all are here, is. It's in our nature to become aware and to truly be able to. There's not anyone I can't understand, and there's nothing I can't really get. I don't get shocked anymore. I don't get surprised anymore. I don't get angry really, unless it's at myself. And if I do, it's old programming that I'm recognizing and observing in myself. But it's just like, yeah, I just get it. Do you not feel that? That what is it? I don't know. What is it? The grey.
It's the spiral staircase of awareness. It's like same address, but completely different perspective based on which level in the staircase that you are. So it's like if you're up here looking at a problem down there, you have a far better view of it than if you were right there by it. Or it's like in Gestalt therapy, they use the example of like, if you've got a problem and it's right here, like take that problem around and then it's right back, and it'll always show up until we're ready to deal with it. But instead of getting down and dirty in the mud with it each time, instead we say, oh, okay, you again, pushed you out, refocus, redirect, and then it's just like it still goes around and it comes back, and then it's just like, oh, you again, and then you detract, and then it's just like it keeps going around, and then it just pushes out further.
Yeah,
so it's just
levels.
seeing things from a different perspective. It's like you can see your finger from a completely different perspective. You can see a problem from a completely different perspective. But it's like and I know I go back to it regularly in my experience, but it's just like I can't even tell you, like talking about a mental institution, I'm not even kidding you. When I got rolled into the second institution, where at this point I was no longer of my own accord, my family wouldn't help me get out. And it was just like, holy shit, like I'm stuck in here. But like it hadn't hit me because I'd had such a great experience in the first hospital that I'd stayed in overnight, where the one doctor had told me to look into Gestalt therapy, or not Gestalt therapy, he told me to look into holotropic breath therapy, and basically told me to search Goff's work, because he could see that I was having an awakening that was just not fully integrated yet. And I'm saying, like, dude, I got chemicals, like I got extra DMT in my system. Like people are going to want to experiment on me, because like nobody wakes up happy like me. Like nobody is like a hummingbird. Like that's my energy. And it's just like most people are not of that frequency as consistently as what I am. And it's just like, it's weird and it throws people off. And I've been told I'm too much my whole life. And so it's just like, they're going to want to study me. And it's just like, I'm saying, like, I need help. I can't do this on my own. Like, we need to gather the leaders of the new world order to bring together all of the best from all of the traditions in order to put them all on the table, to refine the stories back to the virtues and the values that will actually help us create a world religion that is no religion, that is inclusive and encompassing of all of people's faith and their religious foundations, but it just takes God out of the box.
Yes.
And so
And you see how they use that terminology against us, the New World Order. That's something we fear and we don't want, because that is the But actually, really, there needs to be a new order. This is what we said. There needs to be disorder, new order, and we're gonna block that through this programming fear bullshit that comes through of the NWO and that's how they get you. There's that duality there, isn't it?
But why do you think they're trying to dull people's senses? So I haven't necessarily had, I've not been sectioned before, but my mum had 10 nervous breakdowns. So I've grown up with a mother that has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. When I do that, because I don't believe necessarily in these types of diagnoses. In fact, she was more awake than many people. She was seeing things and hearing voices. And looking back for her medical history, it was so clear and apparent. And they were so quick to call her delusional, and you must be dosed up on X amount of medication to the point her tongue was hanging out of her mouth, She was a walking zombie. Why do they do that to people? Why do they want to suppress people? What information are they obtaining, Most likely important and powerful and empowering information. So, that system, when you step back, why do they want to suppress us? Why do they want to suppress us?
What they're doing to children and what they're doing to...
that's just one element. It's exactly the educational system, everything, minorities. I'm a gypsy, when you talk about freedom, fucking hell, we're like in Britain especially, or Europe, we're almost the last bit of freedom when it comes to nomadism, and that's swiftly being taken away, and then before you know it, there is no fucking freedom, and people are fighting for it, or people are voting for it. They get the gypsies off the road, and we don't But what they don't realize is that they're feeding into their own fucking downfall. That's how I see it anyway. And freedom, fucking hell, we're struggling to kind of hold on to it. It's sleeping through our fingers, but that's why this is perfect timing, because it can't happen anymore, and it needs as you were saying, Laura, we need that new world order. We need to come together. We need people that, like, what is that film, Divergent? Is it Divergent, Avergent, and something else similar to that film? Actually, that's what we need. We need that revolution. We need those three thinkers, man.
Didn't we talk about a minute ago just about how you can't come through betrayal without being betrayed too much? We can't come to this new place together without, this is what's going to take us being pushed. This is needed. We need this right now, this loss of our rights, this people take just for us to go, right, I'm not having it anymore. If we had it all our own way, then we wouldn't have the impetus to even fight for our freedom. We've got to pressure makes diamonds, and we got to use this time wisely to observe, and to then like that thing. Laura used to live in England, so I'm sure she has a good idea of how gypsies are conveyed in this country. But that for example, that documentary that was made about travellers on Channel 4
recently.
But what's happened because of that? The people have gone, right, well, we'll show you on what we're made of, and we'll give supplies to A&E, and we'll document it, and you know what I mean? Without that, you can't fight that.
Well, it's that, obviously being an activist myself, it's the first time I've seen unactive, only gypsies and travellers actually stepping up, even if they're illiterate, they get someone to write something for them, fighting against Channel 4 and so forth. So I've seen a big difference within our community as well, which is empowering and beautiful, and they're starting to realise just how much what's happening. They're starting to wake, because again, within minorities, we've been suppressed ourselves, it's been beaten out of us, and as we were talking about at the very beginning, what happens when you push a dog into the corner, and even the most kind of neutral grey scale dog, at some point it's going to sway either way, isn't it? You know, it's going to back down, or it's going to do quite the opposite. That's it. But exactly, there are positives coming out of it. It's about focusing on the positive, the fight, the good fight. I'm seeing some, I mean, that was, I mean, even I was a bit, to be fair, I was expecting it, but not quite. I don't know if you saw this, Laura, but I mean, it was straight up kind of propaganda, you know, something you'd see back in World War II. There was nothing nice about it. We were fully targeted. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I know that's happening in America as well, but in Europe, it tends to be pretty low key to some degree, you know, very like discreet, indirect, but that was extremely direct. And that to me also shows that these elitists, these people in power, are worrying and scared and are forcing this upon us now. They're doing whatever they can to gather the sheep, to control, to force and suppress and control as much as they can, because I believe they know what's coming, you know. And I've got the tingles.
Time is up. The time is up.
Of course they know.
Huh?
They know what's coming. But we and Robert over on Facebook, actually, while you were sharing that, and he's obviously tuning in, so thank you for everybody that's over on Facebook and not here in video with us. He says, the only revolution that will work is connection and love, understanding and truth. We can't fight the darkness with the darkness. Only the light can destroy it. But is it even a matter of destroying anything? Is it simply a matter of letting something be loved so wholly that we let it go? If we actually accept that what is currently in place has benefited us to an extent, and it's just like my room key from my stay in, like right before the hospital. Literally, I pulled this out on my call with Laura the other day, so it was like right here. But it's like my room key was, it's time to let me go.
Wow.
Like everything about that trip was just literally so magic that I literally said, I was just like, I was high on the magic of the moment. And I was like, I was completely substance free of anything. And I was like, for more than a month. And I was just in my own chemicals, and I hadn't been sleeping well enough. I hadn't been self-caring well enough. And I think that's where this comes back to too, because we really have to bring in the physical element of how we self-care, how we come together and care for each other, and the body, the mind, the spirit. Like I feel like with everything that we've got on the TVs and then all of this conspiracy stuff, it's just like I've found a lot of it, and then people, when you raise your hand, it's like people then send you all kinds of stuff, and it's just like, oh, watch this, and it's just like some of the stuff that people are sending is not my vibration and consciousness, and then all of a sudden that's in my space, and it's just like, like we have to be so discerning about what we allow in our space and how we feel from that. Like you feel the
boundaries.
Energetic boundaries are so important. It's just like, especially for anybody that wants to be getting up live and, you know, raising your hand. And, you know, I'm saying this more for the people that are on Facebook, which there's not really, there's all but one right now, but nonetheless, there could be more in the future. But it's like, we have to be so discerning about how we're feeling when we're watching, and then to pull ourselves back, and to when we notice the different anxiety, it's like, okay, is this mine? Yes or no? And then will I let it, or can I let it go? And will I let it go? It's just a 3-step process that we can do when we're starting to feel those emotions. It's like, is this mine? Yes or no? And then
Do we
can I let it go? It's not wide open. Right? But
is that your dog?
Sorry, that's my dog. Hang on.
I didn't know if it was a dog or a man.
He's got a girlfriend. 1 second, I'm going to turn him on. I'll show you actually, why not? Here we go. That's them too.
That's
Right.
hilarious. Is that like a
Okay.
big stuffed dog?
Sorry, what's that?
Is that a stuffed dog with your dog?
No, real dog. She's laying down and having the time of her life. Let's put it that way.
Self-mastery, Elvis. Come on.
He's got a toy boy. Yeah. Oh, he's absolutely adores her. Honest to God. Yeah, and so does she. But yeah. Anyway, sorry. As you were saying.
Well, that's brilliant, because like adoration and physical affection is so important right now too, and it's just like, why are we being told to stay 6 feet away from each other? Because our heart's biomagnetic sphere overlaps when we're at that distance.
Tauruses, you know, and sharing that, and we're powerful when we come together, especially in this new, the energy, the Schumann resonance is a reflection of the whole energies that we're all sharing, and it is vibing. I don't know if you guys have seen it. We're hitting 110s, 200s, and that's why, you know, they're trying to stop something. But I don't know about you guys, it just does not sit right with me, this social distancing.
No.
I fight it at every possible. People walk past me in masks. I can't help but do the Darth Vader. People tell me to stop right there. I say, let's have a high five, let's hug. I've got to challenge it. It just doesn't make me angry, but it's the closest to frustration I can feel at the minute. It makes me feel sick that we're being made. It's not that we're. It's the fact that people are willing to distance themselves that quickly and easily. Through fear.
I'm kind of in the middle of. I'm appreciating being on my own as well. I needed it. You were talking about letting go. I'm holy cow. You know, I've posted some pretty controversial stuff recently to them anyway. And they well, you know, Age of Aquarius, the Great Unveiling. That's what they're calling it. You know, Great Awakening. And fuck me, did I see it? Sorry to swear, but bloody hell, they were, you know, supposedly what they're called is snipers, people from the background that aren't supportive and unfortunately are hoping that you fall or what have you. Maybe they're not really thinking that, who knows, but anyway. And then before you know it, one person said something and then suddenly several people jumped upon to disagree, and obviously without even knowing any of the information or what have you. But you know, that was a blessing in disguise. That was a great blessing. You know, I don't need to be around these people anymore. It's a purge, a big purge, quantum purging. That's what we need, you know. So actually, again, all these blessings in disguise. It's just how you choose to kind of view it. But and I'm seeing so many people going through the same thing, exactly the same thing, type of purging. And again, yeah, we need to flow with that. And yeah, but then I agree. We also need to connect and level that out, and you know, be present, be okay being alone, and going within, researching, and whatever you have to do, but also connecting with the right people.
Soul tribe. That's what it's about. Age of Aquarius, finding your tribe. It was Pisces we were in, two fish that were opposite, yeah, and you know, not working. And Aquarius is about finding your soul family, but as above and so below. So those people that were sniping at you, these Agent Smiths from the Matrix that come and get you the program.
I wasn't aware of them. I wasn't aware. Like, in fact, a few of them really shocked me. You know, people that have been watching my profile for a long time. When I say sniper, you can't see a sniper. They're hiding. You know, as you said, agents, right? But then different agents appeared, people that were supportive of me, that came out of the shadows that I wasn't also aware of, you know. So actually, yeah, as I said, yeah, very positive.
If there's one consciousness really, which we need to remember, that there's only I am, there's only God, and we are just aspects of that. Separation is the illusion. As we shed these people, or these people expose themselves, let's imagine these people as thoughts that we have in our mind. As we must shed those thoughts. We must shed that program. We must shed the reflection of the thoughts that they're having and who they are. It's just a manifestation of an old thinking, a paradigm. We've got to make sure that we in ourselves go, okay, shit, I attached to you as someone I cared about, but also I attached to my thoughts and my feelings and how I see them. I can't just carry on taking them with me, even if they in the physical form have gone. I've got to lose that in myself as well. And there's new people that pop up and give us this new way of thinking and information. We've got to not attach, because attachment is an issue as well, but we got to take on board. You know, we've got to evolve in that way. So there's no point losing those people that have exposed themselves to you.
Yes.
Carry on thinking.
Elvis! Elvis!
He's having a great time.
He's on a mad. He's having a bloody great time. I'm on 1%. Sorry, I'm gonna have to love you and leave you. Wait, I just let it kind of run out of battery. But there we go.
I was just gonna say. I feel like your dog is not only echoing what we were talking about, which is how animal symbolism always works, but also I think the disruption is a good time for us to wrap up an hour and a half call. So I have thoroughly enjoyed connecting with both of you and all who were over on Facebook. Robert, thank you for sticking around for this whole time, I believe. I want to say that he did actually leave a comment and said, the only revolution that will work is connection and love, understanding, and truth. We can't fight the darkness with the darkness. Only the light can destroy it. I know I read that, but it's significant. And then the second thing he said after that is, yes, that's it. If we all connect in love, truth, and understanding, they will just not have the power upon us anymore. Mm-hmm. I can't see this dog, but I love him already, Robert says.
So, he is pretty incredible, I have to say.
So we feel the deal.
Well, I'm going to post this over to YouTube, and so you can see the dog over there. But yes, we're going to close it out. So Adam, if you will clear our energy with the frequency of the sound, the healing sound bowl, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
And everyone, just thank you for this space that's been, amazing for us to share different aspects of the one I am, and breathe in this sound as we, feel protected and seal what has been cemented, and let them seeds grow in the garden of our mind.
Gonna try a bit of this.
Namaste.
Thank you, guys. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yes, guys.
Yes, we'll speak very soon. Ciao for now, guys.
Love.